The new kicker is signed, and the football gods continue to have a sense of humor. 49ers just added the kicker whom Washington cut for Jake Moody. So it all comes full circle. It is Matt Gay, former Rams kicker who was really good for the Rams in 2021, 2022. Not so good for the Washington Commanders this year, 13 of 19, and he recently missed a really big kick near the end of their loss. So Matt Gay cut. 49ers add him to their practice squad. They do not think they're going to need this replacement kicker for long. Eddie Piñeiro's got a grade 1 hamstring strain. 49ers anticipating at least a week out for Eddie, but maybe this is just a one-game practice squad elevation for Matt Gay, who was 13 of 19 for Washington this year. But veteran NFL kicker, San Francisco worked out 5 kickers. I reported on 3 of them yesterday. Anders Carlson, who filled in for Jake Moody last year, was 5 of 5 on field goals for the 49ers. Tanner Brown, who has yet to kick in an NFL game. John Parker Romo, recently cut by the Atlanta Falcons. He 22 of 26 on his career. And Cade York, another veteran with some NFL kicking experience. Those are the 5 whom the 49ers brought in. Matt Gay is the one who gets the nod. He's had the most high-level success at the NFL level of any of these kickers, so that's why the 49ers made that decision. Again, they're only needing this for a short period of time. Again, the football gods do have a sense of humor. Jake Moody was poached from the Chicago Bears practice squad to the Washington Commanders, who are run by the ex-49ers executive Adam Peters, and that was to replace Matt Gay, who was cut by the Commanders. So the 49ers add the kicker that was cut for Jake Moody. You cannot make this stuff up. I'm sure a lot of people will try to overly dramatize that. It is what it is. If you look at Gay's resume in 2019, he was with Tampa Bay, had a rather pedestrian, bad rookie season, made 27 of 35 kicks. 77% is below average. The NFL average for kickers is about 84%. That's exactly where Gay is on his career. He has kicked in 100 games. He's made 178 field goals. He's made out of 212 attempts. So he's at 84%. His extra point percentage is better than Eddie Piñeiro's. That's something that Eddie's had some weird trouble with over the course of his career. Matt Gay has made 97% of his extra points. Again, this year has been rough for him, 13 of 19. And there's been a decline since his prime with the Rams in 2021 and 2022. He made 94% of his kicks in 2021, 93% of his kicks in 2022. Went to the Colts, was between 81 and 84% there, so slightly below average, and then below average for sure this year with Washington, 13 of 19. But as we know, it's sometimes it's just about a change of scenery for these kickers. Matt Gay, currently 31 years old, went to Utah Valley and then Utah. One of the many guys, went to multiple different colleges in this new transfer era, although I guess he was in school a little bit before the big transfer era. Now it's unusual to see a player who only went to one college, given the fact that they're just bouncing around all over the place. 49ers also made another signing. This is a Brock Purdy lookalike. We're going to have some fun with this one. Maybe Mike can even make a little poll to see if people agree that the linebacker Stone Blanton looks a whole heck of a lot like Brock Purdy. I'm going to get this one up on the screen for you guys. But Stone Blanton is back on San Francisco's practice squad. And, you know, I'm not the only person who thinks this. Here you go. On the left, obviously, is the 49ers MVP finalist quarterback, one of the best in the league, leading this offense back to new heights. And on the right is the rookie linebacker, Stone Blanton, whom the 49ers cut off the practice squad a couple weeks ago, but they just brought him back because Tatum Bethune suffered a high ankle sprain, and they're going to need some more depth at that position. I think that Stone Blanton looks like Brock Purdy. I think there was, I ran into Stone Blanton a few weeks ago when the 49ers had first re-signed him. And, I just walking by him and I was like, Brock added a little bit of muscle. And then I realized it wasn't Brock. I realized it was Stone Blanton. And I was talking to Mac Jones about this, and I asked Mac, hey, do you think that Stone Blanton looks like Brock Purdy? And he said, yes, I think so. And he says that Brock actually gets upset when, when he brought it up to him. Mac is a big jokester. This just kind of goes to show you how good of a vibe that 49ers quarterback room has. That Mac is as funny off the press conference stage as he is on it, and he's hilarious on the press conference stage. And I guess in the QB room, there was a joke that Stone Blanton looks like Brock Purdy. I thought it was funny. Mac Jones thinks it's funny. Maybe Mike can make a poll. The poll's up. You guys can vote right now. Do you think that Stone Blanton looks like Brock Purdy? Because, I could even keep this on the screen for a little bit. Let's get this back up on there. Because I think that there's a resemblance there. I really do. The haircuts are similar. And obviously Stone Blanton plays a different position, so he's a buffed up Brock Purdy, a little bit stronger at that linebacker spot. But 49ers needed him on this football team. 49ers also need a kicker for this next game against the Carolina Panthers, and it is going to be Matt Gay. Now, if you want to draw this even fuller circle, Deebo Samuel's on the Washington Commanders, and that's where Jake Moody is now the kicker. And we know that Deebo Samuel, Jake Moody, there's obviously the Tabor Pepper history there from the Tampa Bay game in 2024. So now Jake Moody is kicking on the same team as Deebo Samuel. And it also happens that Jake Moody got his NFL career resuscitated by beating the Washington Commanders. Do you remember that when he was on the Bears practice squad and he got called up, and in his first game back, he made the game-winning kick? I think he made a total of 4 field goals. That was a Monday Night Football game, probably a month and a half ago. You can't script some of this stuff, like if you tried, right? This is remarkable storyline activity in the NFL. And now the 49ers literally signed the kicker to their practice squad who replaced or who was cut for Jake Moody. All right, you can vote in the poll on Brock Purdy and Stone Blanton. I've got some good numbers to show you for Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. Speaking of those two guys, because the 49ers have a special. Oh my God, 64% of you say no. Oh, geez. Well, at least a third of you agree with me and agree with Mac Jones. Remember, Mac Jones is in the minority here along with me, but the poll is still running. I may try to influence the ballot box there, as is my right, since I'm running the poll on my channel. We'll see if that percentage, the 64% no, decreases. We'll see if the yes increases a little bit. But anyway, speaking of Mac Jones, speaking of Brock Purdy, the 49ers are in an unbelievably blessed quarterback situation. Look at this right here. This, not this, that I do want you to look at that. I think that they do look alike, but take a look at this stat graphic. This is from Ben Baldwin, who does such a great job with all this stuff. This is the adjusted expected points added leaderboard per quarterback. And look where Mac Jones is. This is factoring in drops and stuff that's outside of a quarterback's control. Mac Jones is ranked number 6 in the adjusted EPA per play leaderboard here in 2025. Now, the reason that you don't see Brock Purdy's name on this table is because Brock doesn't yet have enough snaps to qualify. I'm looking to see what the minimum snaps here are. I think it probably says at the bottom. No, it doesn't say what the minimum snaps are. So I'm going to ask Ben Baldwin, but at some point, Brock Purdy, and probably at some point soon, is going to have enough snaps to qualify. And he currently is in the top 4, somewhere here in the top 4. He ranks ahead of Mac Jones, but he just doesn't have enough snaps to be on this list. Let me toss out a very possible hypothetical moving forward. Say that Sam Darnold continues to slip a little bit. Say that Jordan Love continues to slip a little bit, as is very possible because both of these guys have not been trending in the right direction as far as efficiency goes. What if both Darnold and Love, or maybe even Drake May, young quarterback, or even Matthew Stafford, since the Rams are starting to suffer some injuries, what if some of these guys slip beyond the top 5? Brock Purdy picks up enough reps to qualify, and Mac Jones bumps up because some of these guys slip down. There is a realistic possibility that by the end of this season, the 49ers will have 2 quarterbacks in the top 5 of the adjusted NFL efficiency rankings. So I guess when I said before the season started that the 49ers have the best quarterback room in the NFL, it looks like I wasn't kidding. Like, as it stands right now, they have 2 in the top 6. I guess numbers 2 in the top 7, because if Purdy's name would be on there, if he qualified, then Jones would be bumped down to 7. But if 2 of the guys above Jones fall out of that top 6, top 7 picture, or the top 5 picture in this case, if they fall below Jones, who's not playing right now because Brock Purdy's the quarterback, then the 49ers will have 2 QBs in the top 5, and that is Montana Young era type of stuff. Like back in 1989 when the 49ers just dominated the whole league and outscored their playoff opponents by a combined 100 points, something that we will not ever see again. I mean, that was historic stuff that the 89 49ers team did. Again, they outscored their playoff opponents by a combined 100 points over 3 games. They beat the Denver Broncos 55-10 in the Super Bowl. That team had Joe Montana, obviously, as its starter, but when Steve Young came in for the very sparing duty that he had that year, he played a lot more the year prior in 1988. Steve Young also was lighting the world on fire with efficiency. This year, Mac Jones has been needed for 8 games, so about for half the season because of Brock Purdy's injury. So he's going to qualify for a lot of these leaderboards, and he is number 6 on the adjusted EPA leaderboard. Brock Purdy over his 3 games has ranked even higher. Like this is not normal to have 2 quarterbacks ranked this high. Now, it's also credit to Kyle Shanahan. He's obviously set things up very nicely, but it's about the quarterback play caller cohesion and how well they work together. Like both sides always deserve a lot of credit. And, the 49ers were not seeing this back in the day when Nick Mullins was the quarterback or when CJ Beathard was the quarterback. And nothing against those guys, but they weren't Brock Purdy and they weren't Mac Jones, who constitute the best quarterback room in the entire NFL. And when we say that you need 2 in this league, the 49ers have been a banner example of that. So I think it's really time to emphasize just how good the 49ers have it at the very most important position in the game. While we're at this, is the poll done, Mike? How's the poll looking? Is it going to be open for a few more minutes? It might still be running. Even if it's not running, 49ers have added Stone Blanton, linebacker out of Mississippi State, into the fold. What I do think we need to do is get the roster up to show you where this Matt Gay signing fits in. And no, the poll, it went down to 62%. So more people agree with me than last time. I think that I stuffed the ballot box a little bit in my favor. It sounds like 38% say yes, but 62% say no. Again, the question is, do Brock Purdy and Stone Blanton, the 49ers' new signee at linebacker, look alike? Mac Jones agrees with me. Mike has ended the poll, so I'm going to get off of my soapbox here and just show you the 49ers roster. So they've added Matt Gay to the practice squad as a kicker. So as you can see here, Eddie Pinheiro listed as hurt for the 49ers. We're going to put Matt Gay's name here, and we're going to shade his name in teal because he's a free agent signing. He'll be elevated from the practice squad to kick against the Panthers in all likelihood on Monday. So right now in the practice squad, that is, I believe the 49ers are going to have to make a move here, a corresponding move to fit both Matt Gay and Stone Blanton to the practice squad. I'm guessing that we're going to see a Jalen Graham promotion tomorrow to the 53-man roster. He's the one linebacker right now on the practice squad. But there also will have to be a corresponding 53-man roster move to make this possible. So tomorrow is going to be full of roster moves to the 49ers because as I put Stone Blanton onto this roster on the practice squad, and I shade his name in green because that's what I do for all rookies, you'll see that I have a counter here. And the counter says that 18 practice squad spots have been taken. And I don't think that I'm even counting Matt Gay yet. So that's 19 practice squad spots taken. Yeah, it's not going to work. 49ers need to make a couple moves tomorrow to fit these players onto the practice squad. My phone is playing my own video. That's why you hear my voice twice. I just turned it off. Okay, good. Don't know why my phone went rogue there. People in the People in the chat say that Stone Blanton looks like Brock Purdy's brother, Chubba Purdy. And okay, so I think that's point proven by me, right? I think that these people agree with me. If I say that Stone Blanton looks here, we have the side by side by side. Let's get this up there. This is going to be fun. Mike has quickly tossed this together for us. So on the very left is our new entrant. That's Brock's brother. That's Chubba Purdy. In the middle is Brock Purdy. On the right is Stone Blanton. So I could see how people would say that the guy on the very left, Chubba Purdy, looks like Stone Blanton. And maybe you say Brock looks, it looks like they could all be brothers. I definitely see the resemblance. I don't know why the poll did not go in the direction I thought it would go, but thought we'd have some fun with it. And we can move on to talking about the fact that the 49ers have just signed the kicker who was cut for Jake Moody. Now, Matt Gay, again, when he kicked in 2021 and 2022 for the Rams, he showed the highest ceiling out of any of the 5 kickers whom the 49ers worked out here over the past 2 days. So the 49ers went with a vet. He's 31 years old. They went with somebody who obviously has not been great this year. 13 of 19 is coming off a tough ending in Washington. But as we've seen so many times at the kicker position, change of scenery is something that can do wonders, and it could do wonders in a hurry. Jake Moody looked like a different kicker for the Chicago Bears as soon as he got his opportunity being called up off their practice squad. And that earned him a 53-man roster opportunity again with the Washington Commanders. And obviously there's a 49ers tie there. Somebody who's going to come onto the show, I think, at some point soon. I just got a link to him. This is going to be neat. Doug Bryan. I talked about Doug Bryan a lot during the entire course of the Jake Moody saga. He wore number 4 for the 49ers. He was drafted in the 3rd round of 1994 to a loaded team, very similar to Jake Moody, drafted to a loaded team in 2023. 23 49ers went to the Super Bowl. 94 49ers obviously won one. The 94 49ers won a Super Bowl with a rookie kicker named Doug Bryan, drafted in the 3rd round, who wore number 4. Funny because, history seemed to repeat itself except for the Super Bowl win part in 2023. But the 49ers cut Doug Bryan in 1995. And I guess the lesson here is that it's tough for kickers drafted in the 3rd round to succeed with their first team. The happy ending to the Doug Bryan story, though, is that he played a very successful 12-year career. He got his change of scenery away from the 49ers and ended up being a good kicker for over a decade in the NFL. He's now an executive of a company, I think, that's based in the Bay Area. And we're going to have Doug Bryan on the channel at some point soon. And I think it's going to be fascinating to talk to him around this time because the change of scenery for Jake Moody has obviously been promising. Eddie Pinheiro has never really struggled as an NFL kicker, but he has talked about the benefits of changing of scenery. He's been awesome for the 49ers, especially on field goals, not so much on those extra points. But now, while Pinheiro is out, the 49ers will need solid kicking from somebody who could benefit from a change of scenery. And that's going to be Matt Gay. I don't know exactly how the psychology of this works for kickers, but it seems to be the one position where change of scenery is much more effective than it is elsewhere. I think at so many other positions, you might see a quick bump because somebody moves into a better system, but ultimately you're going to see their limitations as a player or their weaknesses as a player sooner rather than later because the NFL is so good at identifying and targeting those. But for kicker, that scenery seems to be such a determining variable for reasons that are very hard to pinpoint and explain. I guess it's just because it is such a psychologically taxing position. It's going to be really interesting to talk to Doug Bryan about that. And maybe we'll be able to talk to Matt Gay a little bit about that when we meet him in that 49ers locker room over the course of this week. Remember, the 49ers special teams unit is the #1 unit in all of football since week 1. since they added Eddie Pinheiro. This has been absolutely remarkable for the 49ers, and it is one of the indispensable reasons why this team is currently 7-4. If you look at the mathematical probabilities based on the advanced statistics, the 49ers should be 5-6 right now. They have found a way to clutch up to 2 extra wins, and I don't need to tell you that the difference between 5-6 and 7-4 is absolutely massive. And one of the ways that the 49ers have completely clutched up to get this big turnaround into place, to make 7-4 a reality, is through special teams. And some of the statistics that we're seeing for San Francisco, they've been the best kick returning team in the NFL. They've been very solid on punt returns. So for the kick returns, you've got to thank Brian Robinson Jr., Sky Moore, but also Brant Boyer, new 49ers special teams coordinator, who has come in and rehauled the entire operation. He's scheming up return room. He, I think, has done a great job of recognizing that the new kick return setup makes the play a whole lot more like a regular run. So there used to be a entirely different skill set needed to return kicks. You used to have to be, I think, certifiably insane to return kicks, because anybody on that special teams unit had to get a 40-yard running start and run directly at other guys who had a 40-yard running head start and be willing to collide with them. I mean, if you want to talk about mini car accidents happening on a football field when these huge bodies who are moving very quickly collide, the kick return of old is exactly what created the opportunity for those. And a lot of guys got hurt on kick return, and that's why the NFL ultimately changed to this new dynamic kickoff rule. But now that they have moved to the rule where there isn't as much of a running start, it much more closely resembles just a standard play from scrimmage. I think in the past, somebody like Brian Robinson Jr. would not have been a good kick returner because he has a running back's mentality when he runs. He's really, really patient. He waits up until the last second to make a cut. He's not at a full head of steam. The big return that he had on Sunday for the 49ers against Arizona, if you watch, there was a little subtle jump cut there at about the 25-yard line, or maybe a little bit further downfield, maybe between the 25 and the 35. It was quite a ways into the return, a little subtle jump cut that bought him the extra 20. And it was something that just would not happen, a style of running, a lateral movement that would not happen under the old kick return rules, where you just had to shoot out of a cannon and hit the crease and go with it from there. Now this stuff develops a little bit more slowly because there's less of a head start, and it looks a lot more like a scrimmage play. And the fact that Brant Boyer, 49ers special teams coordinator, has recognized that. He's put a running back like Brian Robinson Jr. back there, and he's letting Brian return like he runs on an offensive play. Brian Robinson's got 3 really big kick returns under his belt already. The Sky Moore one was a little bit different. The Sky Moore one, it seemed that the 49ers caught Arizona napping at the start of the game, and Moore just found that crease. And Brian Robinson had one of the great blocks there. Luke Farrell, Jake Tonjes, all those guys had really, really good blocks, quality blocks on that play. That was more of a standard kick return, though, and that there was no dancing around by Sky Moore. The 49ers set that up for explosiveness, and we know that Sky has that burst that is elite. That's why the 49ers traded for him. That fit really, really well into that position. So when we talk about how the 49ers are 7-4 and we talk about special teams, I think it's really important to acknowledge the nuances of that phase of the game that Brant Boyer has done such a good job cultivating for the 49ers. And now it traces back, this number 1 ranking traces back to Eddie Pinheiro joining San Francisco in week 2. If they don't have Pinheiro, which is likely for this next game coming up against Carolina on Monday, it's going to be up to Matt Gay to hold down the fort kicking wise and make sure that the 49ers don't lose any of the special teams efficiency that they have gained. All right, I'm going to answer some questions. It's a rainy Wednesday afternoon, at least an overcast one. I think another storm is moving through. Had some sun in the morning. Now we have some rain. Now it's a good time to sit down, look at the 49ers roster. We've got plenty of moves coming tomorrow to make room for this Blanton edition, for the Matt Gay edition. We can talk the 2 49ers quarterbacks, Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, who have a shot at both finishing top 5 in efficiency this year, which would be insane, but insanely good for the 49ers. I can answer anything about this San Francisco team. Trevor, and this is a good one to call out. Thanks for this comment, Trevor. Luke Gifford is an absolute stud on special teams. I absolutely agree with you. And, right now, Luke, I think, is being replaced as the Sam linebacker. I think they're giving the job right now to Nick Martin, the rookie. And it was just a matter of time, right? Nick didn't play for most of the 2024 season at Oklahoma State because he suffered that knee injury. And I think he only had 4 games in his final college year. So extremely fast, extremely talented, but extremely raw player who also hadn't played football, organized game football in quite some time. I don't think I ever expected Nick Martin to be an instant contributor for the 49ers. There was some kind of weird restlessness from the fan base, from content creators about that, but it was like, he's going to be ready when he's ready. He's got to get through the practice reps. He has to learn the playbook to the point where the 49ers can trust him, and then they could squeeze him in there as that third linebacker, and that's exactly what they did. He played 14 snaps for the 49ers. Against the Cardinals, he had 7 tackles. I know a lot of it was in garbage time for Nick Martin, but tip your cap to him. That was a good extended action debut for Nick Martin. But even if Luke Gifford is no longer playing defense for the 49ers, he has been really good on special teams, and that's one of the main reasons that they brought him in. Remember that the 49ers, they've got Brant Boyer as the head special teams coordinator. Colt Anderson is the assistant special teams coordinator, and he was the head special teams coordinator of the Tennessee Titans last year. That's where Gifford played, and that's where Gifford was the special teams ace. So the 49ers have multiple aces on this special teams unit, which is why it's the best unit in football since week 2. They've got Saran Neal, who they added because Brant Boyer competed against him in the AFC East while he was the coordinator of the Jets for so many years. And they've got Luke Gifford. Then they also have Curtis Robinson, who now is going to be elevated to Mike linebacker with Tatum Bethune hurt. So Mike and I have been wondering, does Curtis's role on special teams get curtailed by that promotion on defense? That could be something that the 49ers have to overcome as well over the course of the next few weeks. Where I'm asked about updates on Bethune. High ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a few weeks. So Curtis Robinson's going to be wearing the radio in his helmet, and the 49ers may have some downstream special teams adjustments to make in that case. Special teams waking up. Yes, sir. I'm checking on my phone here to see if we've got any other news. I've got a lot open on my screen. 49ers have just announced some practice squad moves. They have officially signed Matt Gay, and look, the 49ers have made a corresponding move. They released Russell Gage from the practice squad. So earlier when they added Stone Blanton, they're going to have to make another move tomorrow based on everything because they didn't make a corresponding move for Stone Blanton. So I think that they're still overfilled by one. I think what they're going to do is call Jalen Graham up to the 53. They say that they're not going to put Bethune on injured reserve, but maybe they will. Like, they could have changed their mind over the course of the past couple days. But I can go back to the roster now for the 49ers and get Russell Gage off of the practice squad, which opens up one of the spots, but I still have at least one more practice squad spot needing to be freed. And if Jalen Graham is called up to the 53, which would make sense for the 49ers at linebacker, then, and I think they actually have a 53-man spot open, according to this. I don't think they have to make a corresponding move on the 53-man roster because I got 52 right here. I'm making sure that all the math is correct here. 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. Sometimes the counter breaks on me, but no, it's correct. Yeah, so the 49ers have a 53-man roster spot open. That means I do predict Jalen Graham to be called up to the 53. We could even make that move right now. If it doesn't happen, then I'll move him back, but I'm going to move him up to the 53 myself. Stone Blanton then is the 49ers practice squad linebacker. Jalen Graham out of Purdue is the 49ers 53-man last linebacker. Tatum Bethune is hurt, so he's not going to be available. He's going to be an inactive on game day. He's not going to IR. Matt Gay added to the practice squad, and that fills up the practice squad. 16 players plus one. Isaac Alarcon is the international exception at number 7. So that completes the puzzle for the 49ers. You're right. They released Sincere McCormick from the practice squad. So that's a good call. Sincere was released when they added Adrian Martinez back to the practice squad. So this puzzle gets more and more complicated by the day, but this actually makes a lot of sense. Sincere McCormick, thank you to Niner Faithful, bringing that omission to my attention. We remove the running back, Sincere McCormick. We can reset that cell, and now I'm going to put Jalen Graham back on the practice squad then, since they don't necessarily have to elevate him to make room with Sincere McCormick off. So there we go. Adrian Martinez on, Matt Gay on, and Stone Blanton on the 49ers practice squad. 3 new additions, essentially. Adrian had been on the 53, was waived, and the 49ers brought him back. And we could put Andrew Farmer the second, if we want to be accurate. We can move him up a slot right here. There. I would hope that all makes perfect sense for you now. Ready for more questions? Eric Gomes, excited about Adrian Martinez. And, Adrian, that's part of that really, really healthy, good quarterback room that the 49ers have. All those guys around the same age. All those guys have, I think, really supported each other this year. And in what's been a tough year for the room. I mean, Purdy's been fighting the turf toe. Mac Jones was battling through a lot of injuries. It looked like Adrian Martinez might get an earlier chance, especially when Mac was on the ground against LA in week 5. He didn't get in there, but he finally was able to get into a game when Mac Jones subbed himself out. Unbeknownst to Kyle Shanahan, and Adrian entered against the New York Giants for the kneel down snap. That was a cool moment. So Adrian ran off with the football, and it looked like he was going to keep the football as a souvenir, but then he decided not to keep it. He said that he was going to wait for probably a bigger occasion, maybe his first NFL touchdown, first NFL completion. He was waiting for that to keep the football, put it up in the man cave, wherever he wants to at home. So I know that I told you guys that Adrian Martinez ran off the field with the football, but he ended up thinking differently about the situation. He said, you know what? That was just a kneel down. I don't want that ball. I mean, it was a nice gesture for Mac Jones to let him into the game, but we're pulling for Adrian Martinez. Hopefully at some point here in his NFL career, he gets to complete a pass, do something good on the field where he can keep the football in good faith and be a nice full circle story for Adrian Martinez, the MVP of the UFL. This is a good point. Trading Mac Jones is such an early conversation. That was my point the other day when I was talking about Mac and his potential trade value. We don't know what's going to happen over the stretch run of this season. I mean, the 49ers right now are in a spot where it's not like Brock's toe magically healed. It's at a spot where they gave it a lot of time to where it's close to 100%, not quite at 100%. Something could still happen on that front. Like the 49ers have to be, and they're obviously they weren't planning to trade Mac Jones this season, but dynamics can absolutely change between now and the offseason if Brock Purdy has to miss more time. Hey, knock on wood. You don't want that to happen. You don't want anybody to get hurt, but I think that it's very important to be smart and realize that all contingencies still have to be on the table for the 49ers, even if Brock Purdy were 100% healthy. That's why you have a backup quarterback in the first place. And if Mac has to get back in there, and if he wins some more games for the 49ers, if he keeps on playing high-level football for San Francisco, then, I mean, his trade value potentially will go even further up. And, also, if he has to get back in there, the 49ers might look at themselves and say, we might need to use him in the second year under contract. I think one thing that a lot of people aren't talking about is that the 49ers have set up this great QB rehab program. And Mac Jones is not the first quarterback to have successfully entered that program and exited delivering better results. Obviously, happened for Sam Darnold back in 2023. And as the 49ers start developing this QBU program, I think that there's reasonable confidence that they could bring in another reclamation project and also flip him for a profit. So you flipped Sam Darnold for a profit. Compensatory selection came your way in that formula for the 49ers. You have a chance to flip Mac Jones for an even greater profit because you have him under team control for next year. So you can trade for an immediate and higher pick if the audition has gone well. I think it has, and maybe the audition isn't over. And who's to say that if you do that, you can't find another quarterback who you can turn around? If you've got it's not just Kyle Shanahan. You also have Brock Purdy in that room. Purdy is one of the best in the game, period. Like anybody who's trying to say anything differently is hiding this week, right? They're hiding this week. They're saying that they never said any of what they said, even though there are receipts on the internet. It's one of the most embarrassing things in the 49ers social media discourse that I've ever seen, the way that Brock Purdy has been talked about and covered by some. They can't run from it anymore. They saw Purdy look like Peyton Manning when he was audibling at the line of scrimmage the other day. They've tried to run from the truth of the statistics. He's been the most efficient quarterback in the NFL since 2022, which is when he entered the league. And people have tried to block that out. They've tried to excuse it away. You can't excuse facts away, right? They matter more than your feelings. And right now, like we are in a point of time where Purdy came back so dramatically, so dominantly, and has it set up for him to continue doing this to where he's going to be right back in that top 4, top 3, maybe even number 1, even on a turf toe by the time this season ends. We're at the point where the people who were talking all that nonsense have just gone into hiding, basically. And they should be in hiding because like it was a completely unreasonable discussion. So, you know, that's where Purdy is. That's who any potential reclamation project gets to work with if they come to the 49ers. Sam Darnold has said it multiple times. He has said, I got to work with Brock Purdy and he helped turn around my career. I saw somebody who was at the very top of his profession, at the quarterback profession, at work within Kyle Shanahan's system. I got the coaching from Kubiak. I got the coaching from Shanahan himself. I got the tutelage from Brock Purdy. That helped me turn around my career. Mac Jones is saying the same stuff right now. Watching Brock, learning from Brock. If Mac is traded and the 49ers bring in someone else, maybe it's Trevor Lawrence next year. I'm only half kidding, but people have been joking about that. But if they bring in somebody else next year, that quarterback will also have the benefit of working not only with Kyle Shanahan, but with Brock Purdy. And I don't think that it's possible to overstate how big of a boost that could be for a quarterback who might need a boost entering this 49ers 2026 offseason. But that's not neither here nor there. It's an early conversation, and I think that it's just important to use it to set the framework of what the 49ers are actually dealing with, and that is an elite QB1 and a very damn good QB2. Somebody like Mac Jones, who I think has had a lot of his potential unlocked by not only Kyle Shanahan, not only the 49ers weapon setup and the 49ers play calling, but also by getting to work in the same room as Brock Purdy. It was so beneficial for Sam Darnold, and it obviously has been really beneficial as well for Mac Jones. I got a good video for you guys. This was breakfast today. We got to go to one of the iconic San Francisco spots. This is Mama's on Washington Square. This is the best French toast, some of the best French toast probably in the country. I had their famous Monte Cristo sandwich, which was awesome. But that Swedish French toast, there's Lombardi herself. She was having a good time there. It is really, really good. Like this, it's right on Washington Square. I would highly, highly recommend it. The problem is that there's always a line if you go on a weekend. or even a Friday, maybe even a weekday. But this is the week before Thanksgiving, and I think a lot of people aren't traveling. So Mama's on Washington Square, epic San Francisco eatery. Big recommendation for you. Some of the best French toast you will ever have. Yes, it was very tasty indeed, Dave. You guys want to talk about the Panthers? What's the point of discussion going to be now? Because I am ready to answer all of your questions. All right, let's talk about the Panthers. Val wants to talk about Carolina. So, Carolina, they've got good receivers. I think that's something the 49ers absolutely must be concerned about. The 49ers can't take anyone lightly because anytime you have a defense like San Francisco's that is struggling, that needs to be opportunistic to win. They were opportunistic against Arizona. It was a good performance by them, but it obviously is a shaky situation for San Francisco. Anytime that you have that, you can never rest easy because an NFL team, regardless of who they have, if they're an NFL team, can give you a lot of trouble. And I mean, you saw it with Arizona. They didn't have great receivers, but Michael Wilson is a good player, 15 catches. They didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. They didn't have Zay Jones. There were no Simi Fehoko. They're down 3 receivers. I think their backup quarterback is better than their starter. I think Jacoby Brissett is better than Kyler Murray. He's been more efficient. So that was an upgrade for the Cardinals. But still, with limited weaponry, the Cardinals moved the ball through the air quite a bit against the 49ers. Now, were they efficient? No, that's where the 49ers get credit for having a good game plan and making sure that Arizona could not go off against them. When you got Teteroa McMillan, it's the rookie out of Arizona. Speaking of Arizona, that's Tucson, though. That's not the Tempe, Phoenix area. But the 6'4", 6'5" receiver, they're lining him up a lot in the slot now. Upton Stout, obviously not as tall as that. He's 5'8" for the 49ers, and he struggled a little bit in coverage despite making some really, really big plays for San Francisco. When you've got a setup that is obviously vulnerable, you have to have your eyes peeled and you have to be on your toes and you have to be ready for Carolina to give you absolutely everything that they have. I think Carolina's record is better than their efficiency. They're 6-5. It's been a little bit of a weird season. They started 0-2. They had some O-line injuries. It was ugly for the offensive line of the Carolina Panthers at the start of this year. They have since gotten into better position as an offense. Bryce Young threw for over 400 yards when they beat the Atlanta Falcons to move to 6-5 this past weekend. Teteroa McMillan was lined up in that slot, as I said, more often than he had been over the initial 10 games of the season. That's going to strain this 49ers offense, but the Panthers, I think still there are some vulnerabilities in the pass protection. The 49ers have executed a good cage rush, especially last week. I think that between stopping the run and rushing Jacoby Brissett in an efficient fashion, they were able to really limit Arizona's passing efficiency, and that's going to be the same goal against the Panthers. Now, Rico Dowdle has been running the football really, really well for Carolina this year. That's the one spot where the Panthers are plus efficiency. He's been at 833 yards at 5 yards a carry for Arizona this year over the 11 games. Former Cowboys running back. And the 49ers, we know that their defensive strength has been stopping the run. That's been the one thing that has turned around the most since 2024. And it's, we could talk about special teams also turning around big, but I'm talking offense, defense. Stopping the run has been huge for the 49ers. The one game where they didn't do it was the loss to the Rams. And you saw the result there. The defense is predicated on stopping the run. It's going to be predicated on stopping the run against the Carolina Panthers on Monday Night Football. They need to make sure that Rico Dowdle does not go off against them because it has been a hell of a year for him. Against Miami, he had 206 rushing yards a few weeks ago. He was at 130 yards when they beat the Green Bay Packers on November 2nd. So that was just a couple weeks ago. 25 carries, 130 yards. I'm sure they ran right at Micah Parsons in that game. I'm actually excited to see some of the Carolina tape. Past 2 weeks, he's combined for a little bit over 100 yards for Arizona, and he has not been as effective against New Orleans, which was a loss, and against Atlanta, which was an overtime win. 49ers need to make sure that they keep Rico Dowdle away from positive rushing efficiency. That's what's going to be the key for the 49ers to be able to assign what they need to assign against Tetero, McMillan, and the Panthers receivers on the back end. Dave Canales, who is the Panthers head coach, had some good thoughts about Tetero McMillan in the slot. I'm going to play this video right now. Mike got something prepared for us so we can hear from Panthers coach Dave Canales on Tetero McMillan. I think this is going to be some good intel ahead of this matchup against the 49ers. So first I play you a French toast video, and now we're getting more advanced. Now we're moving to talk about the slot matchup for San Francisco.
Crazy stat by Next Gen that he had exactly the same number of catches, yards, and touchdowns inside the numbers and outside. Was that by design?
Yes, just trying to move him around, trying to make sure that he doesn't get the hard down every play. And when I say the hard down, anytime you're in a 3-by-1 formation and he's the single side X, there's a lot of things that a defense can do. First and foremost, you can put your best corner over there to cover him. Secondly, you can cloud it with the safety over top. You can buzz the safety into the hook and have kind of a presence on the weak side. You can use the weak side linebacker to kind of stave off any type of in-breaker. So there's a lot of things that defenses can do when he's singled up. So the goal was to try to just continue to move him around in different spots, the number 3 spot, the number 2 spot, number 1 in a 2-by-2, number 1 in a 3-by-1, and just get him in different places. He's seeing different types of coverages and maybe try to get him a little access, knowing that we can also rely on him to win some one-on-ones out there, but that becomes a really difficult position for the receiver as you're trying to, protect all the angles of the cut for the receiver.
Wow. That was one of the best clips I'd ever seen. You don't ever hear a coach that revelatory about schematic details. That was something else from Dave Canales. He over the years, as the Panthers get better, and I think a coach that detail oriented, it's not surprising to me for that he's seeing success, and they're 6-5 now, and that seems to be a team on the upswing. I don't think that he's going to be as talkative moving forward. In fact, Kyle Shanahan used to be much more talkative when it came to talking X's and O's and scheme, and then the 49ers got good, and he probably got a little bit more jaded with the media. He probably took a lot of really bad, stupid questions over the years, and now he doesn't talk about that kind of stuff at all. But I still remember in the early years, 2017 and 2018, it wasn't quite like that, but Shanahan definitely was willing to divulge much more. Dave Canales there was, he was talking formations. He was talking the splits on each side. He was talking the logic behind moving Tetero McMillan, who's a big bodied receiver around. And it's all sound. It's all fascinating to hear. They wanted to make sure that he was able to get more into the flow of the game. He had 130 receiving yards for the Panthers, and it worked. And it's going to be a big challenge for the 49ers coming up this week. Now, at some level, between Rico Dowdle and Bryce Young, if he plays well, and an offensive line, if it blocks well, and receivers like Tetero McMillan, if they deliver, on some level, the 49ers defense will be overmatched because they're just not built to flood anybody anymore this year. Without Michael Williams, without Fred Warner, without Nick Bosa, no Tatum Bethune now, 49ers defense is really, really hurting. I return to the best defense is a good offense. It's where the 49ers have to focus their cumulative complementary football energy. The offense needs to shield the defense. And you know what? The special teams needs to shield both units. But if you combine offense and special teams, you can take the 49ers up multiple tiers. Like we saw evidence of that against the Cardinals. They were the number 1 offense, the number 1 special teams, the number 15 defense, if that was extrapolated over the full season. 49ers are contenders if they continue executing a formula like that. And along that line, they signed Matt Gay today to the practice squad. The kicker was cut for Jake Moody. 49ers will see if he could see a little career bounce back. They might only need him for a game, so it's not anything worth freaking out about Eddie Pinheiro with the grade 1 hamstring strain. And then, of course, the 49ers also added Stone Blanton to their linebacking room. Everybody, thanks for watching. CMC's #1 fan right here. Happy birthday to you. I appreciate that. Scotty asking about Austin Pleasance. Says that he might be to blame for the missed PATs. I'm not sure. I have to watch tape and learn tape of missed PATs. He said he saw a claim. I appreciate the comment for you, Scotty, but I don't study point after attempts that closely, so I'm afraid I don't have a clear answer for you on that. Jason just became a member. Thank you to Jason for becoming a member. Shout out to him. Everybody, thanks for watching. We've gone 50 minutes. Talk to you soon.